Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 week away from the NBA returning. 1 week till we get to see our favorite players back in action once again, and man has it felt like forever. And I know y'all read the title, I know y'all saw the thumbnail, so let's get right into it and talk about 6 of my bold NBA predictions for the NBA bubble playoff tournament thing that the NBA is having, and the NBA just coming back in general. But before we get into that, a quick plug to the podcast. This week we had Kenny, aka King of the Fourth Quarter, as a guest on the show. Very excited to have him on. We kicked it back and talked about his channel, his come up, and some more basketball talk that again just wouldn't make it on this channel. Links will be in the description for that, but let's start it off with my first bold prediction. I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder will end up with a better record than the Houston Rockets. Now, don't take it the wrong way, that's not a diss at Westbrook or anything, but let's just keep it a buck. When a franchise loses their 2 best players, one who's averaged a triple-double the past 3 years, and another who just finished off a season where he was a top 3 candidate in Defensive Player of the Year and MVP in Paul George, and you get a 34-year-old Chris Paul back and a 20-year-old guard who averaged 11 points per game in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander back, you do not expect that team to be in playoff contention. You don't expect that team to finish with the same sub-50 win record that they had from the season prior. And you most notably don't expect them to improve and advance further into the playoffs than they did the year prior. You just don't. However, the Oklahoma City Thunder have a chance to do just that. As before the NBA was put to a stop, the Thunder and the Rockets ended with the same record of 40-24. And looking at their post-return 8-game schedule, the Oklahoma City Thunder seems to have an easier schedule, as the 3 worst teams they face are the Wizards, Suns, and Grizzlies. While the Houston Rockets' worst 3 on the other hand on their schedule are the Portland Trail Blazers, the Sacramento Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs. So just looking at their schedule, the Thunder could very well end with a better record than the Rockets. But the fact that we even have the opportunity to say that, and the fact that they have similar records, even if they don't even end up with a better record than Houston, just speaks to how much they've overachieved this season. As a matter of fact, looking at the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets schedule, there might even be a chance that they can steal the 3rd seed, which would be a phenomenal sight to see. But to even go further, I know the 3 to 6 seeds in the West could change in the bubble, so I don't want to make too many predictions in the playoffs based on the current standings, especially when it comes to the first round, but I honestly think that the Thunder would give the Jazz and the Nuggets a good run for their money. While the Western Conference standings can still change a lot within the 8 games at the bubble, the Eastern Conference on the other hand should be all set for the most part, with the most room for change being the 4 to 6 seeds, but mainly the 5 and 6 spots, as the Pacers and the 76ers have the same record at 39-26. And it looks like the Celtics will most likely go through a road of either the Pacers or the 76ers in the first round, the Toronto Raptors in the second round, and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I believe the Celtics have the capability to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I actually do predict that they will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I know that take has a chance to bite me in the you-know-what in a couple months. While the same can be said for the 76ers with Embiid and Ben Simmons, the Celtics on the other hand are getting an off-season's worth of improvement from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. At least, I would hope. Which is not a small thing, especially for this team. Mind you, in February and March, Jayson Tatum was a 25+ point per game scorer, along with 7 to 8 rebounds a game on great efficiency, alongside terrific defense. Jaylen Brown has also been a consistent 20 point per game 2-way player throughout the season, and hopefully this duo can only build on that. But on top of that, the Celtics are also getting a fully healthy Kemba Walker, who prior to his injury bugs was a much more efficient scorer than his whole season averages make it seem, which honestly, considering how efficient he is from 3 at that volume, is not even a bad efficiency for the whole season. But when the Celtics were fully healthy, they, to many NBA fans, were considered the second best team in the East, as they had so many scoring options and the chemistry was just on point. And this hiatus that the NBA has gone on may have given the Celtics' young duo to get even better while giving their all-star point guard time to fully recover, and that is an extremely deadly combo. While everyone's excited to see the NBA come back, including myself, because man, it's been a long 5 months, man. I am ball deprived, and yeah, no, I'm gonna pause this video for 3 seconds. Video editor, pause this video for 3 seconds because that is the ultimate pause. And regardless, I think everyone will be watching again because sports fans just want a sense of normalcy back, and it's understandable. But in all honesty, I believe the product we will be watching is not going to be as good, purely from an entertainment standpoint, and it's going to take some time to adjust to. The main reason being that there aren't any fans, and I honestly don't think enough people are talking about this aspect of the NBA's return. The atmosphere that having fans bring to games, the fan-player interactions, the home crowd cheering for your team, the pressure that the fans bring, the celebrations that the players do to rile up the fans and get them into the game in order to help the team. As a matter of fact, would they even bother doing those celebrations knowing that everyone's just at home? Again, I will be watching because I miss basketball that much, and it is better than nothing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the product I and everyone will be watching will be a good one, especially for the NBA standards. Some players feed off the fans and that pressure, so what happens if it's not as tangible as it usually is? Some players play much better when there's no pressure, and in all honesty, would it be fair to say that this playoff tournament is really representative of anything? On top of the fans not being there, it's been damn near 5 months since the NBA stopped. These teams are not the same. They just aren't. Most of the players are going to be very rusty. I mean, when the NBA comes back every year, the NBA players are always really rusty for like the first 3 to 4 weeks. And the same will happen when the NBA comes back, and it may be worse. Some players haven't even touched a basketball in a while. And if it takes them 3 to 4 weeks to shake off rust in normal conditions, when they have proper off seasons to properly train, how much will it take for them to do it this time around? Will it affect the playoffs? There's gonna be teams that won't have some of the rotational players. Some teams might even not have their star players. It's fine to recognize the champion this year as champions and give them credit, but to say that they're the 2019-2020 season champions just seems weird, and it just seems off, if I'm gonna be honest. If I were to pick one team to be a wild card for these playoffs that has the capability to far exceed our expectations, I would honestly say it's the Philadelphia 76ers. Like I said earlier, I do have the Celtics making the Eastern Conference Finals, but that does not mean that I'm neglecting what the Philadelphia 76ers are capable of. Because contrary to popular belief, that duo of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid is still one of the deadliest duos in the league, especially defensively. You have one of the best rim protectors in the league in Embiid, and a 6'10" point guard who can guard 1 through 5, as well on the same team on top of Josh Richardson, Al Horford, and Matisse Thybulle. Now offensively, they haven't been really good because of spacing issues, which is their biggest problem, but I believe because of their defensive potential, they could either lose in the first round because of their spacing issues, or completely suffocate people defensively, and who knows what a fully rested, fully healthy Embiid brings to the table. Alright, here's my championship pick. Y'all ready? I have the Los Angeles Clippers winning it all, as I did coming into the season, because I stay consistent. And honestly, throughout the season, my take hasn't changed. I understand that the Lakers have dominated the NBA much more than we expected, and they've definitely gelled faster than expected. But man, this is the playoffs. This is winning time. Just last year, the Bucks looked unstoppable going into the playoffs, but the Raptors matched up better and were able to beat them in 6 games. Not saying that the Lakers are the Bucks, but it is not out of the realm of possibility that a 56 win pace team can beat a 64 win pace team. It just isn't. It's happened before. In 2016, a 55 win Thunder team beat a 67 win Spurs team in 6 games in the second round and was up 3-1 and pushed a 73 win Warriors team to 7 games. And I just believe that the Clippers' extreme depth, while still having the star power that they have at the top with Kawhi and Paul George, is just ridiculous. And speaking of Paul George, this 5-month break has definitely given Paul George more time to recover. So that's huge for the Clippers as well. Like, come on man, they got a reigning finals MVP, Kawhi Leonard. A guy who just came off top 3 in MVP and Defensive Player of the Year voting in Paul George. 2 Sixth Man of the Year candidates in Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell. One of the best guard defenders in the league in Pat Bev. An elite shooter in Landry Shamet. Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, Zubac, and a championship-proven coach in Doc Rivers at the helm. Like man, look, I see the argument for the Lakers. They got LeBron. They got Anthony Davis, and that is the best duo in the league, one of the best in history. And understand that as long as those two are together, they have a fighting chance. But I believe the Clippers already had a chance to beat them going into the season. They gained more help off the bench, while the Lakers won't have Rondo and Avery Bradley. And in terms of beating whoever comes out the East, with all due respect, but I really do think the champ is going to be determined by either one of the LA teams. The Bucks are a team capable of taking those 2 teams to 6 games. And again, Giannis could be a freaking 36% shooter from 3 after this break. And that'll bring a whole different element to things. But I would have either LA teams beating the Bucks in the finals regardless. And while this may not be a bold prediction, I figured this is probably the perfect time to tell y'all my input on the race for the 8th seed in the West. While I do believe that the Memphis Grizzlies have been prematurely written off for actually defending their 8th seed, I do completely see the Pelicans taking that 8th seed from them because of the rules in play. Just a refresher, the rules for this NBA return plan states that if the 9th seed is within 4 games of the 8th seed, there will be a play-in tournament to determine who gets the 8th seed. And with the Pelicans having the easiest schedule out of all teams in this 8-game return, I can completely see them at least being in that play-in tournament. And if it does come down to a best out of 3 with the Grizzlies, again I would pick the Pelicans, simply because they have both Lonzo Ball and Drew Holiday to throw at Ja Morant. And if they can limit Ja Morant's play, that would be very huge for the Pelicans. Meanwhile, although the Grizzlies do have Jaren Jackson Jr. to throw at Zion, what about Drew and Brandon Ingram? And because of that, I definitely see the Pelicans getting the 8th seed. Now again, these are bold predictions. I tried to back up all my takes as much as I can with facts and evidence, but it is the NBA and it's 2020, so anything can happen. If anything, I'm more excited to see how much I get wrong, because it's bound to happen. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if you guys liked it. Hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 150,000. Watch these 2 videos if you haven't already. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.